Okay, let's bring in our guest today. We've got Manuel Sanchez de Nogues, Deputy Chief Observer of the EU Election Observation Mission. Good afternoon. Welcome to Storycon, Mr. de Nogues. Can you hear me okay?
Good afternoon. Can
you're
you
on
hear
mute.
us?
Sorry, you're on mute.
Yeah, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Yes, good afternoon.
Okay.
Thank you for inviting me.
Fantastic.
Good
Are you,
afternoon,
Yes.
Manuel. It's
Hello.
nice to see you again.
are you
Yeah,
still in
thank you.
Manila?
Sorry?
Are you still in Manila?
Yes, we are in Manila. Yes,
Okay.
Makati.
Okay, good. So just to let's start with setting the context for those who don't know this story. So the Philippine government invited the European Union to send an observation mission to observe the 2025 midterm elections, correct? And this is the second time the Philippine government has done so.
The Philippine government and the Commission for Elections, yes, COMELEC.
Okay, and how big was the delegation that the EU sent in response?
We deployed on election day, we deployed the 226 observers, but we arrived on the 28th of March with a first team of 11 experts. Then that was also continued with a team of long-term observers of 72 long-term observers that are deployed in the country since mid-April.
I see.
But
you
on
said-
election day we have short-term observers, and the total number of observers that we deployed and we accredited with COMELEC was 226.
And they were divided into 82 teams.
They were divided into teams of two because that's our methodology. We always work in teams of two. So basically, the first batch of LTOs, long-term observers, there were 72. That means 36 teams. And then we received another bunch of 104 short-term observers. That makes 52 teams, plus a delegation of the European Parliament that also came to endorse our work, plus what we call locally recruited observers. Those are diplomats from the EU member states accredited in the Philippines.
And Manuel, I would just like to clarify that you had an agreement with the COMELEC before the elections that you will be granted full access to the polling places. Is that right?
Yes, the European Union signed an agreement with the COMELEC and with the Department of Foreign Affairs, granting the mission full access to all stages of the electoral process.
Right. So that seems to have been the problem because you signed an agreement for unrestricted access to the polling centers and the precincts, but on the ground, you said that your observers were denied access, which, by the way, there is a Philippine law. There is an election code that prohibits access, the entry of foreigners into the election premises. But tell us what happened on the election day itself.
Well, on election day, we decided not to deploy observers for the voting, but we deployed for the counting and canvassing of the votes, following the instructions or letter that we received from the instruction that we received from COMELEC that EU, and also it was also published on the media repeatedly that the EU observer would not have access to the voting, access to the precincts to observe the voting. So therefore we complied with that instruction, and therefore we deployed our observers only for the counting.
And how long will your group be in the Philippines? I understand there will be some long-term observers staying on for a couple more days in the Philippines.
Yes, we have a staggered deployment and, of course, a staggered redeployment. The first to arrive are the last to leave, basically. So that's the core team. That's the experts based here in Manila. We arrived on the 28th of March and will be in the country until the end of May, until the end of the month. Our short-term observer will be redeployed soon in these days, and they will be flying out to Europe in the coming two or 3 days. And then the long-term observers, those who arrived in the middle of April, will be redeployed to Manila for further flying out to Europe by the end of next week.
Manuel,
But you do have preliminary findings already.
Manuel, I already heard that you have a preliminary report. have you given this to the media or made it public? Your preliminary report?
We had a press conference yesterday where we presented our preliminary statement, and it's been also distributed to the media. Yes, it's a public document that it's accessible to everybody, media, also the public, the general, everybody.
But offhand, what is the summary of your preliminary report? Offhand.
We assessed that the process was properly organized by COMELEC. Also, we also take into account that we couldn't observe the voting, so therefore we cannot comment on the voting because we couldn't observe it. But we observed also the counting. In general, what we say is that the process was organized well. That all materials were in place in the polling precincts. That there were some innovative decisions or activities conducted by COMELEC with regards discriminatory remarks by the political parties or candidates. It was a very, I think it's a positive thing to do, and also we highlighted some things that we believe that should be addressed properly, like vote buying, like the violence. Even if we know that these elections were less violent than the previous ones or the 2019 elections, because we have to compare these elections not with the 2022 elections, but with the 2019 elections. We understand that the violence is less severe, but at the same time, we say that we cannot refer to violence as mere statistics. Basically, because whenever there is a person alive, a human life at stake, or a human life lost, that's a very serious concern, especially in a democratic society and also for elections.
Can you give us more details about your observations on vote buying? Maybe a personal experience or anecdotal or stories from your colleagues.
We have received credible reports from our observers. You must also take into account that if you are dressed like I am with a vest, clearly identified as election observer, you're not going to commit any kind of interaction. Commercial interaction, yes, of course. But we received credible reports. And that we believe that are very credible, and also we have also other types of evidence. It is like a crime being committed in front of the police. No one commits a crime in front of the police. That's the idea. We also have we report on the distribution of welfare payouts like ayuda that has been done during the campaign, which is something that might not be completely correct if it's done in a partisan manner. But also I would like to highlight the positive things. For instance, I think I already said about it. It's about the stance that COMELEC took towards against the discriminatory or sexist remarks against women during the campaign. I think that was a very good initiative. Also, the inclusiveness of the registration process, the voter registration process. Also, that I think that COMELEC was take a very positive stance towards guaranteeing the right to vote for persons with disabilities and persons with elderly persons. With the I think there was something very in order to have a more inclusive election process. I think that was something that was good to do.
It's good to hear about all of these improvements, but also, Mr. De Nogues, if I could just come back to the point about vote buying, your group pointed out the pervasiveness of vote buying, and that your observers noticed that both cash and goods were being distributed during this time, and you've documented cases as well in places like Bohol, Davao Oriental, La Union, Palawan, Quezon, Siquijor, Zamboanga City. So it's not concentrated in any one region, but actually spread out throughout the Philippines.
I think that the word is widespread. So we will comment on more. I have to say that this is a preliminary statement, We will we'll publish a final report in, let's say, 1 month, 2 months time, where all these issues will be much more detailed. You need to understand that this is a document that is contains our assessment so far. It's a short document that we need to concentrate many issues in a limited number of pages. So therefore, we're just commenting what we have, but we don't go into the details of specific cases because they have no physical room for that. But we will comment on that, and I think we'll have more time to dedicate more space to these specific cases in our final report.
But Manuel, I saw the word ayuda in your preliminary report. No?
Yes.
Ayuda is a very
Loaded
very,
word.
yeah, iconic name here. No?
Okay. Well, it's a word like, I mean, I am Spanish. It's the same word.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the same word. That's right. Okay.
Ayuda.
It's also
I
ayuda.
understand you've had election observer missions in other countries. Can you compare this experience in the Philippines with those missions?
We don't compare one election with another election because the contexts are very different, and the elections must be themselves self-explanatory. I cannot compare with other. It's something that we don't do because the context is very much different from one country to the other. So therefore, we refrain ourselves from making such statements.
But in general, Manuel, no, in general, what is the, from your observation, what is the main difference between elections in Europe and elections here in the Philippines? Without making a judgment, no.
You're making the same question as your colleague, but so I will have to reply the same way. I might change the words as you have done with your question, but we don't compare processes.
What is the value of these observation missions? I mean, I get that you didn't have an ideal experience here because you were not given full access to the precincts, but talk us through the value of sending independent third-party election observation missions to, large democratic exercises like that in the Philippines.
The main value is to have a kind of partnership with the country to compare the process. What we do when we observe, we compare the process with international standards that the country has signed on political participation and election. It's a very good thing to do because you put your elections and you compare them to what is the standard or the international agreed standard on how the election should be conducted. Also, the value of exchange experiences. It's not only us Europeans that come here as European Union citizens that come here to observe elections in the Philippines,
right,
but our elections are also observed. Elections in my country are observed by other international organizations. The EU does not observe elections in its own countries, but it's done by another international organization. And this is not like us coming here to observe, but it's also about my understanding of how do I see election observation is exchanging experiences, exchanging exchanging in a way that we can, improve our elections and our democracies at the end. This is a way to improve our elections. That is how I see it.
You have a team that focused on disinformation and fake news in the elections. Can you tell us more about their findings or their observations?
We have found that there's a dedicated section in the report. It's not a big one; it's a small one on social media finding. We have found several instances of trolls that have increased the number of followers by several politicians, which does not have a natural explanation. Basically, it seems to be that they are like artificially created. We'll go into more details in our final report on that because we will have more room to explain deeply all those instances.
Was it pervasive? Would you describe it as pervasive, the problem?
Sorry, I don't.
The problem of disinformation during these elections, would you consider it pervasive, that problem?
I would consider it that it's affecting every. I mean, it's an ongoing process. That it's an ongoing problem. That it will be because of the development of social media. That it's becoming more and more and more and more important and more. More serious.
Right. Okay. We'll leave that there for now. Thank you so much for your insights and your time. We look forward to getting the full report when it's ready. That was Manuel Sanchez de Nogues, Deputy Chief Observer of the EU Election Observation Mission, which observed the 2025 midterm elections of the Philippines. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manuel. I hope you return back here.